Slave to the Grind. This is our new segment, our new weekly segment, right? Where so Joey, you get to pick next week's album. And then after that, Dryden, you get to pick one that we all listen to and review together. But we're going to do these group album reviews because I think this is a good way for us to like force each other to listen to an album that we love, that we, really love. And we can all kind of like get together and pontificate about it.
Yeah.
So Eric chose Skid Row, Slave to the Grind. Let me read a little bit of the Wikipedia just to provide some context about the album. Slave to the Grind is the second studio album by American heavy metal band Skid Row, released on June 11th. So it was released this month.
Wow.
1991.
This last week? I probably listened to it on the day it was released.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Atlantic Records, the album displayed a harsher sound than its predecessor and lyrics that avoided hard rock cliches. I did notice that. Slave to the Grind is the first heavy metal album to chart at number 1 on the Billboard 200 in the Nielsen SoundScan era, selling 134,000 copies in its opening week. The album was certified 2 times platinum by the RIAA in 1998 for shipping 2 million copies in the United States. It produced 5 singles: Monkey Business, Slave to the Grind, Wasted Time, In a Darkened Room, and Quicksand Jesus. Skid Row promoted the album opening for Guns N' Roses in 1991 and as a headliner the following year.
Fun fact, too, Sebastian Bach's dad did the cover art.
Oh, really?
Yep, I saw that on the Wikipedia.
I started going down the trivia.
Yeah, when I was listening to it, I was like reading the Wikipedia and just reading about it to see, see some fun facts.
Do you remember buying this album, Eric?
Oh yeah, I still have the cassette.
Yeah, so this was the second. Well, this was the first piece of music I ever bought with my own money as a kid.
Really?
This album, I bought it on cassette. The second one was Faith No More, Angel Dust, but this was the first. And so it definitely has a special place in my heart. But I also wanted to talk a little bit about what we were talking about, the four of us earlier, about how this album has multiple release kind of versions. Because the song "Get the Fuck Out," I bought my copy. I think at like Target. So, those types of stores sanitize these albums, which is interesting. Like that's censorship, Yeah. And I remember a friend of mine, this guy Jory, he was like one of the dirthead kids, with the long hair kids who listen to fucking metal. He was like, bro, I've got the real version of Slave to the Grind. And I was like, the real version? What are you talking about? I've got the real version. He's like, no, bro. If you heard the song Get the Fuck Out? I said, no. And so he took me over to his house and like jammed it for me. I was like, oh shit, I didn't even know this existed.
Yeah, that was the same way for me. I found out that there was 2 versions, and I went and found the version that I wanted.
Yeah. So according to the Google AI too.
Before you do that too, this guy says rock was on its way when this came out.
On
its way out. Sorry, it's way out.
He's totally right. The song "Get the Fuck Out" is on Skid Row's album "Slave to the Grind." It is track number 6 on the standard version of the album. Slave to the Grind track list: Monkey Business, Slave to the Grind, The Threat, Quicksand Jesus, Psycho Love, Get the Fuck Out, Living on a Chain Gang, Creep Show, In a Darkened Room, Riot Act, Mud Kicker, and Wasted Time. 12 songs. Note that some clean versions of the album replaced Get the Fuck Out with the song Beggar's Day. So I got the clean version because I bought mine at Target, but that was the first tape I bought. Anyway, I'm interested. Like Eric, I'll shut up now and let you talk for a minute. Like,
no, I mean, I think this is a great album. It's one of my favorite albums. It's one of those albums when I need an album that I know is a good album to listen to. This is one I go to because it's
front to back.
Yeah, I mean, just front to back. I can just listen to any song on there, and I remember each song, and it just hits home.
I would like to hear some of Dryden and Joey's observations because they're less familiar with this record than you and I are. And I'm sure they'll have something interesting to say about it.
Go ahead, Dryden.
Yeah. Well, to me, I haven't really like I know of Skid Row, but this is the first time I've really like listened to them, and I was impressed. Like I think more and more now I'm starting to appreciate that older side of metal, that 80s like 90s kind of come up. Yeah, so I was impressed. Like the mix was really good. Like I was listening to it in my car, and Sebastian Bach is a very talented vocalist. He's doing like those opera screams, but he also has like a pretty dirty, rugged ass voice on a lot. I'm forgetting the song too. I think it's called like A Threat or something.
The Threat.
The Threat. The riff in that song is so badass. Like there's a bunch of riffs all over that where they're doing those pinch harmonics and shit, and I love that too. So I liked it a lot. I was surprised.
There are 2 guitar bands too.
Yeah.
So there's like a lot of like guitar dynamics and the incredible guitar playing. One of the things I noticed listening to this again more this time is there's also a lot of punk rock influence in Skid Row.
Yeah.
I mean, and you hear it, they do a lot of those group shouts, and I'm sure it's because like Rachel Bolin and Dave Sabo and all those, they like write a lot of the songs, Scotty Hill. But I noticed that a lot. Anyway, let's let Joey. I want to hear what Joey has to say about this record.
Well, I will echo what Dryden said. I had never really listened to Skid Row. I don't know if ever. So I can't compare it to the debut album. Mm-hmm. But just overall, I would say this reminded me of like if Guns N' Roses and Alice in Chains had a baby. I feel like that would be this album.
Wow.
Because it's kind of like, it's still kind of hair metal, but it's got like a real grungy undertone to it.
Yep.
Like that heavier tone with the guitars and stuff.
Yeah.
So it surprised me because I expected it to be more hair metal, and it wasn't at all. So I actually enjoyed it. I listened to it twice.
Yeah.
I feel bad that I didn't like just sit down and like, read the lyrics as I was listening. I was either driving or walking when I was listening to it both times. But so I don't remember specific songs per se. I do remember Living on a Chain Gang. I really liked. And I think, Dryden the Threat, that riff in there was pretty heavy.
Yeah, there's a couple of other ones too. I'm forgetting.
The Threat's definitely one of my favorite tracks on this album.
Well, when I went down the trivia thing, I found that this album was recorded almost entirely live in the studio, which that impressed me.
That song Riot Act too. I was
going to say that's my favorite song on the album is Riot Act. That's a very punk song.
Yeah, that's more punk rock. I remember.
And they have these like kind of Motley Crue style parts, but like it's not because I'm not really a big Motley Crue fan, but I think they do it right where like the vocals aren't annoying or like cheesy,
This album is interesting because the first Skid Row record was like in the hair metal era, but with this one, you can hear, like Joey said, the influence of other bands like grunge, like Alice in Chains had come out. These guys were tight with Pantera, and
that was the other thing I wanted to say because I looked it up. They had took Pantera and Soundgarden on tour.
Yeah,
and after I knew that, then when I listened to it the second time, I'm like, you can kind of hear Cowboys from Hell in this sound.
Yeah,
which I love Cowboys from Hell album, so I'll definitely be listening to this album again. So I wanted to thank Eric too. Like I probably wouldn't have given this a chance if we hadn't done this, but for my assignment, I listened to it straight through and I'm like, wow, this is pretty heavy.
You got to go back and listen to the first Skid Row record now too, but because those first two are just classic albums.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when this came out, they were talking about like, is this as good as the Van Halen 2? And they were saying, yeah, this is good. And then some people saying, no, it's not. And that was like the big deal was, is it as good as Van Halen 2? And that was everybody's question.
this Skid Row's songwriting, like listening to this again, it made me remember, like, because there's a lot of like ballady songs on here, like Quicksand
Yeah.
Jesus, In a Darkened Room, and Wasted Time is such a great song. Like I love that song so much. It's so, that's that hook and just like the message of it and stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember
that's
the video. It was about a
that's the
drug
last
addict.
one.
That's
But-
something I kind of dig too about some of the older 80s, 90s stuff is they do some of these breaks with like cool chorusy, like, you know, acoustic-y guitar stuff that's not really a thing anymore.
Yeah. Listening to it today while I was driving, I was thinking about how, you know, albums like that, like this, were a big deal, you know, and there were a lot of people invested in it. And they're like, you know, from a producer to an engineer to like the label people and the A&Rs and stuff, and like kind of helping to shape it. And I almost wonder sometimes if that isn't a good thing, you know, where a lot of people just make their own shit and put it out these days. It's kind of a little less like by committee. And I think the quality of the music in this on this album is just like top tier, you know. It's like it's an Atlantic Records release. It's a classic rock album in the same way that like a Led Zeppelin or a Van Halen or a, you know, Black Sabbath record is, I think.
Yeah, I will say that I didn't really get their full punk rock undertones until I started listening to punk rock afterwards, and I'm like, this sounds like Skid Row. And I was like, you know, so for me it was like a reverse, because I never listened to punk, but listening to some of these songs, they sound so punky, you know.
I mean, get the fuck out. Yeah.
Get the fuck out.
We
sounds
said
like
that in
a punk
unison.
song.
That's funny. Yeah, that's a heavy. I love that song. It's a hard ass fucking song.
Yeah.
And they kind of have that like dirty glam vibe of like the Sunset Strip bands, like, you know,
Yeah.
Motley Crue, Poison Fest, or Pussycat. But like the other thing about this album, I think Dryden mentioned it, is the lyrical content. It's like political stuff, you know, like
Yeah.
slave to the grind, and even the threat, and like when you read the lyrics, you're like, oh wow, like they're not like, oh, in the backseat, baby.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, and I'm sure you've noticed, for me, I always look at the album cover when I'm listening to music too, and I thought it was cool that he said his dad made the album cover, because I mean, you can tell it looks like it's somehow like political, some sort of political like imagery going on there. So I thought that was cool too. And obviously the album is literally called Slave to the Grind. So
Yeah.
The song In a Darkened Room was inspired by child abuse survivors. It says this emotional ballad was written after the band read letters from fans dealing with sexual abuse and trauma, prompting a darker lyrical direction.
that's interesting.
Yeah, so their stuff was like a lot more, I don't know, it was more serious than some of the other bands of their ilk.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, so like looking on Wikipedia, Janice Garza of Entertainment Weekly praised the ballad's lyrical depth and the fury of Riot Act and the title track, giving the album an A-. It's like some people, there's different, conversely, Rolling Stone's David Frick thought Skid Row had not matured lyrically at all, rehashing the glam metal cliches. However, he complimented Wagner's production. This is like critical reception.
Well, David, fuck you.
Yeah, David Frick, honestly, there's a Metallica short we have that I cut him out of because James Hetfield goes, James Hetfield, they're talking about, it's when they did the video for One. I totally am going to slander David Frick here. But so there's this part in the interview, they did this interview and David Frick's there, right? And James Hetfield goes, when we made the video, you know, we didn't want to be like Toto, or like, he's like, what was popular on MTV was like Toto, and he like named a couple bands and another like really shitty band from that era. And no offense, Toto, like Toto actually has some good shit, but like at that time, like for a metal fan, you're like, that's corny, fuck that.
Yeah.
Like, Rosanna.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, well, what the hell? And so David Frick was like, well, don't say, like, David Frick gets all like uppity and is like, you shouldn't name names or something, you know what I mean? And I'm just like, fuck you, David Frick, like, shut up.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, fucking.
So another thing I learned this week, because I didn't know anything about this band. I always assumed that they were from Los Angeles because that's where I always associate Skid Row with.
Right.
The band's from New Jersey.
Yeah.
Jersey, yep. And Sebastian Bach is Canadian.
He grew up in Canada and he was born in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Well, maybe
he does have a killer voice.
Explains a lot.
There's a lot of dynamic in his voice. I like revisiting this album. I like you were saying, right? It's like he does do some of, or Joey, like he does do some of the hair metal screamy type stuff on some parts and the like vibratos. It's like very Judas Priest influenced. But then he has like some real grit on like songs like Riot Act and stuff. Like he's doing like this like like deep, like almost like a Phil Anselmo type, growl. But then he belts it out on the ballads too.
Yeah, because you guys had me listening to that Rat stuff, and I get a lot of Rat vibes from Skid Row. So it's the same kind of, maybe not the, I guess kind of the like the style of vocals too, because he's got that like more gritty style for 80s vocals, Yeah. And it's a lot heavier than a lot of the other stuff I've heard from that era.
So is it Dave Sabo was the guitarist?
Yeah.
Snake.
Yeah, I'm reading about him too, that he was friends with Bon Jovi growing up. He was actually in Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
When they first formed.
There's a little excerpt on their Wikipedia too that the title track, Slave to the Grind, include the one, actually it says included in the finished album is the original demo that the band recorded during pre-production with producer Michael Wagner. The band recorded a proper version during the album sessions, but they were unable to match the intensity of the demo, and they opted to use the former one instead. So that's pretty cool too. They tried to re-record it and it didn't hit as hard, basically.
Yeah, that's dope. It's interesting too, listening to that album. Like when I listened to that song, I'm like, I could tell why they chose that to be the title track.
Yeah.
So just a question, because I don't know this band at all. Like I've heard you guys talk now, their debut album's worth checking out. What about the third album, Subhuman Race? Like, did they continue down this heavier path, or did they like?
I like Subhuman Race. It's not as good. Like the OG Skid Row, like on that one, they kind of lose a little bit of their like hair metal touch. And
well, I was wondering because that like you're thick into grunge now.
Yeah.
In 1995, and I was just wondering, did it sound more grunge than this raw blending of genres?
I don't think
it's actually more. It's more industrial.
Yeah.
Like
I
really? Think they use. Yeah, but I honestly need to listen to it again. I haven't listened to it in a while. I need to revisit that one.
Well, they did a few. They did a couple. They did a album with some covers on them too.
Monkey Business too. This guy was talking about Monkey Business. How it's his favorite song on the album. And that song too. I loved that song. That was the first single.
Yeah, that's the first track, I think, too.
It's the first track, yeah. And it starts with a blues lick.
Yeah.
And that was so fresh for that time, it's like
that's what I was gonna say, because like again, listening and passing, and especially at work, because my managers are big 80s music people. Mm-hmm. A lot of that stuff just gets repetitive, and listening to this album, I could tell that they were really trying to do something different, and they achieved that. Like they're not just sticking, like they have some parts that are definitely very 80s glam, thrashy, but for the most part, like at least the guitars, from what I hear, are doing something different for that era.
Yeah, the production's killer. I didn't know that they recorded all of it live either. That's really killer. Yeah, it sounds cool. Like it has the edge of a live album. Like when you listen to it, you're like, it sounds like a live band, you know?
Yeah.
So
I love that.
yeah. Good choice, Eric.
Thank you.